Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday, Joe Biden.
What?
Happy birthday. That's right, the president to you and many more. At least 10, maybe 15. How about 16? We'll figure it out, but at least definitely 6. Yeah, today is Joe Biden's birthday. He is 80 years old, oldest president ever.
Happy birthday, Mr. President.
If you trust, calendars from the 1800s, I suppose, because there's a bunch of those dudes who
He's
went.
running out of F's.
What do you mean?
When he's questioned by somebody on the far right during a press conference.
Yes, he has 0. He's got less than 0 F's for the doozies of the world.
Did you see that? I saw one clip where somebody was like, "So, what do you think about Trump, who's still got a pretty powerful political influence?" He said, "Oh, does he?" With like this little sarcastic grin, like, "Really?"
Yeah. Well, that's because as much as politicians will go back and forth about my polls and our polls, and we're trying to do this, and we got to stay in there, and we got to we need everybody to show up and stuff. They do see the real story. If you see them really worried, there's a real reason why they're worried. And if you see them relaxed when everybody else is panicking, there's a reason. And and it is amazing to me, and I think the greatest gift that the press could give Biden right now is to recognize that if the polls they were reading were so wrong about the election, about the red wave, and that the Republicans were going to seize control of both chambers by overwhelming majorities, and they were going to just, act as a dead stop against the entire agenda of the Biden, and those turned out to be so wrong again, that maybe, just maybe, the same polls about Biden's popularity are just as wrong, because they were done at the same time.
Who will pick up their phone,
right? The same time by the same people. If one part of the poll is massively wrong, then it stands to reason the rest is wrong. So, anyways, congratulations to the fam, and a happy birthday. And okay, so the Alito announcement yesterday of Jack Smith, who I said was a great improvement over Jack something else that vaguely rhymes.
And Jack Smith does sound almost vile.
Yeah. You're in charge of 2 things right now, Jack and Smith left town. There's been a lot of like, oh, come on, why, and died. All right. I got news for you. The one thing you know about Trump is that while he can't afford lawyers of his own, the RNC, to cover their backside and others around them, will throw some decent lawyers at him if they think he's going seriously down. And those people will go, this is being run by an appointee of his political rival because he is running for office. So, to stay away from that, the appointment of a special counsel in this situation, by the way, not an independent counsel, I would like to say for the record, Merrick Garland still has a say in this. This is not one of those things where, they're creating some sort of their own version of the Durham report. This is regular guidance by the DOJ, because it is coordinating a lot of investigations, many of which are too serious to just go, you handle it. It's about that guy. It's not about that guy. It's about national security, and it's about graft and the attempt to overthrow an election through violent means. Those things aren't things you just Mueller report to some degree. Mueller, even the Mueller investigation was less about the presidency of Donald Trump and more about the campaign of Donald Trump. Could you or could you not prove that they were in cahoots with Russians, or that Russians were manipulating them to have an impact on the American elections? By the way, nowhere in the report does it say no collusion. That doesn't happen. It just never happens. But he says it again and again and again, and so much so that his his Kool-Aid followers will go, no collusion, no collusion, like like a tick. Well, the Mueller report, again, being about the campaign and the campaigner versus the president and his connections after the fact, because once he's in the office, he gets a backdoor to Russia that he can use, and he can keep people off of it because he can say it's for need to know basis and stuff. So it's really hard to prove past that point. Now that he's out and he's making deals with the Saudis leading into his next election cycle, I got news for you. The man has basically rung the dinner bell that he'll take all comers. Last time he did the Russia, if you're listening thing, at this point, he's like, anybody who hates America, anybody who likes my America in decline speech, the vault is open. Start chucking bucks in. He's just for it now. And there is an element of, he'll try to move all his soft, small donors to the campaign, where he'll use that for basically a PR campaign to kind of help him fight back against the legal cases he's in. And then the super PAC will still gather money from dark money mega donors that can just throw money there that will pay his bills. And this deal with the Saudis helps plug some of his financial holes during this time. Now, there's a lot of reasons why it can and more than likely will fall apart. And that it's not as big as they tout it as being, because it's essentially him just slapping his name on a project. He's not a part of the actual ownership of the buildings or the project itself. It's just a labeling exercise like everything else they do in the Trump organization these days. And it would not be surprising if Trump org Dubai suddenly shows up and becomes the de facto headquarters of the Trump organization. Now, will that bite him going into the presidency? Absolutely. Will he care? No. Because he doesn't want to win, people. This is not about it. Like I've said many times, the guy is going to drop out more than likely February, March, by the latest the spring, for a myriad of other
go all the way third party it and mess everything
up. Nope. There's no way he third parties it. It's too expensive. And he's not going to take over the Forward Party or some garbage like that. It's just not happening. So it'll be health reasons. It'll be they're after me and I have to take time they're attacking your favorite president. And now they're threatening to throw me in jail. So I have to fight this and I can't do both things at once. And by the way, it will correspond with essentially every aspect of his legal case falling apart and his donors drifting and his support falling off. It took about 35 minutes for Republicans that were like ride or die Trump supporters to go, enough is enough. We're done. The editorials started being written before the speech.
Yeah,
because they knew what he was going to say, and they only greenlit him because anything could have happened. He could have come up there and said, I can't run because of this, or I'm the exploratory committee, which is basically what he's doing. I would argue that's what this is. And he'll probably they'll argue with the...
and Ivanka's all retired from politics.
Oh, yeah, she's out. Because they made their money and they made their connections. They're gone.
And she doesn't want to risk that.
Right. And again, she's trying to salvage the Trump name after Pop passes. Use the name Trump as a glitz and glamour name like Kardashian, but shorter and more to the point. And if it's Ivanka Trump and she's this glamorous sort of princess after the rotten old king goes away, that's not the first time that's happened on Earth, kids. That's not the first time that as a business model has been put forward. And so don't be surprised if that's the salvage act. Don and Eric are done. They're going to be attached to the failing properties and be selling them off to people and just, big game hunting and pretending to be rich and spending what's left of the fortune before they die. Ivanka and Jared, however, are, joining these, they've got his family's wealth, however, sketchy. And they've got, her name and the money they made while they were in the White House. They don't need it anymore. So this is going to be fascinating to see it play out. But the speech on Tuesday was bad. It was flubby and fumfering, and it was ridiculous, and he even brought up his whole, like, execute drug dealers nonsense, and that every drug dealer, which would include, like, every weed dealer in the country, has 500 dead people in their wake. Like, it's just absurd. It's it's such a childish, like, 80s cop show view of reality. But even beyond that, his second follow-up last night, where he was like, raging against the special counsel, was he tried to go back over a couple of things he said that he screwed up. Like, he said that we'd had peace in the Middle East for 4 decades. For decades and decades and decades, is what he said, because of him. Which is absurd and silly, and he was lambasted for it, and we all laughed heartily. He tried to pick that up, like, basically do, some pickup shoots for them to, like, sausage together the first speech and the second one, which won't match because it didn't have the same amount of flags and a different backdrop. But will his followers care? No, because they'll add echo and piano music, and they'll slap the thing together, and they'll be like, this is the most beautiful thing I've ever heard in my life. He's done. He's done. They know it. The question is, can the Republicans shed him soon enough to have a shot going into 2024? My bet, no. Nope. He's gonna shiv every candidate they have, and his own followers are gonna turn on them, splinter the party, and result in a marathon win for Democrats in 2024. We'll be back right after this. It's the House Sparks Radio program, mega worldwide on WCPT Radio, Chicago's Progressive Talk, WCPT820.com, and of course, live streaming at infotainmentwars.com. Come on, subscribe. We're getting there. We're like 43,500 subscribers now. We're making some headway. It's amazing. I know. We'll be back.
It's practically 52,000.
It's in Trump land. It's 85. Yeah.
Yes.
Just double it.
Attention, attention, stop what you're doing. Because we're coming back to the Hal Sparks radio program, mega worldwide.
They went a little crazy with it, and I appreciate it.
Now let's get back with Hal Sparks radio program, mega worldwide.
Now, I have to say that the rigmarole around Twitter, Trump kind of grabbing the mic and Kanye style at that event last night and going, I'm gonna let you finish, but I just want to say that Donald Trump's presidency was the greatest presidency in the world, and in the Donald Trump of presidencies. That everything is a reboot right now. Everything. Like last night, he line for line said the thing about people coming across the border. They're murderers, they're rapists, they're bringing crime. And you know what he did? You know what the only difference was? You know what the only part of the reboot was? Because sometimes in a reboot they cut things off, they recast things.
Sure.
He recasts some people. He recasts the good people. He dropped that part. He dropped the good. He thinks that the lesson from 2016 was, I shouldn't have said that, and some of them I'm sure are good people.
Yeah.
That's no longer true. Also, he has Trump math is no longer working, where you just double whatever the bad number is and cut in half whatever the good number is. He's now doubling the doubled number. And the problem with that is that the lie was already ridiculous, but people who supported him in the MAGA world, well, if you tell people it's like 4 million people coming across the border because there were reported 1.36 million crossings. By the way, only 41% of them were first timers. The majority are people trying again and again, which means not only are they coming across a second time, They're coming across a third, a fourth time, which means the number of actual crossings shrinks even further, because it's not just that one person counting as 50%. They now count as a 25% increase over the original crossings, and then a 15%, and then a 5%. The more these people try and fail, the higher the number of crossings gets. It's the people that get in that is going down. And Trump's real problem is and he knows this because Mar-a-Lago hires undocumented workers. He's friends with all these Texas businessmen and these New Mexico farmers and these Idaho farmers who hire, undocumented workers so that they can pay them under the table, depress their wages, and undercut the wages of locals who would work on the farm. He knows there aren't that many people coming across, because if that was true, there wouldn't be a shortage of employees everywhere he goes. Because everywhere he goes, it are sycophant-run, Republican-led businesses, created by friends, because he doesn't go anywhere anybody might push back on what he says. So he's surrounded by people who are going, you can't get good help right now. Why? Border wall, right? They're like blaming the CPB. Jane says he also hired undocumented workers to build Trump Tower in New York City. Yeah, and he's mobbed up through the wazoo, and Rudy Giuliani and blah, blah, blah. But the real, it's obvious. It's one of the reasons why he can't build anything anymore, because his own party, the people he ran for, raised the scrutiny so high on undocumented workers, and were so against a visa program that would let, short-term migrant workers come into the country because they'll stay and they're all brown and stuff, that they're so against it, he couldn't sneak the workers in to make his projects profitable.
Oops.
Yeah. They killed their own business model. It's hilarious.